A man runs through a dark forest in Ireland. He seems frightened, despite constantly bumping into signs that read "Point of No Return" and feature various numbers indicating either direction or distance to something. However, he cannot escape. Darkness quickly descends. A flock of birds flies overhead, plunging into some sort of pit, and in the next moment, an invisible force grabs him and drags him away. My name is Alex, and welcome to my channel. Elsewhere in the country, artist Mina, who works in a pet store, is asked by her boss to deliver a rare parrot to a zoo in a neighboring city. Mina agrees and takes the bird home for the night. There, she confides in the parrot about her mother's death 15 years ago, and to her astonishment, the bird begins to respond. In the evening, Mina puts on a wig and goes to a bar. When she meets a man, she introduces herself with a fictitious name and claims to be a ballerina. The next morning, Mina apologizes to the parrot for her behavior, believing her true self wouldn't appeal to him. Finally, the pair sets off on their journey. Along the way, Mina receives a call from her sister Lucy. Lucy reminds her that she has a family, her and her nephews, who love and miss her. Mina continues driving and eventually finds herself on a road leading into an old, dark forest. Suddenly, her car breaks down and stalls, and her phone signal disappears completely. Taking the parrot's cage, Mina steps out onto the road and tries to find help. But the forest is dark and deserted. When she returns to where she left her car, the road is empty. Mina continues to wander through the rapidly darkening surroundings and, to cheer herself up, suggests giving the parrot the name Darwin. Suddenly, she spots a woman running by and decides to follow her. Mina catches up to her near a small forest cabin. The woman, opening the door, orders Mina to hurry inside if she wants to live. Of course, Mina rushes into the cabin. The elderly woman's name is Madeline. She has been living here for some time with two other young people, Kira and Daniel. She immediately instructs Mina to stand in front of a mirror because the watchers cannot enter inside but observe from outside, coming every night after sunset. Standing by the mirror, Mina suddenly hears sounds like applause. Madeline confirms her suspicions. The watchers are applauding the arrival of a new object. In the morning, Mina announces her intention to leave, and although the others assure her it's impossible, she heads into the forest. Madeline catches up with her and explains that this forest induces hallucinations in people, but survival is possible. The signs scattered throughout the forest mark the boundary from which a person can reach the cabin before nightfall. If one crosses the boundary, there is no way back. They were placed by a man called the Professor, but no one knows where he is now. That night, Daniel puts on a show for the watchers, introducing the newcomer. However, she is asked to behave normally. Meanwhile, Kira puts on music and dances, as she does every evening. Mina finds discs with recordings of dating shows. The next morning, she and Sierra go to collect medicinal herbs because her missing husband asked her to take care of Daniel. Then the man went looking for a way out and disappeared. Ciara reveals that they recently discovered strange burrows scattered throughout the forest. This is where the watchers go during the day. She believes she has been in the cabin for almost 5 months. Later, Madeline outlines the safety rules. Never go out at night, don't open the door to anyone, and always try to stay in the light. A strange life begins with eerily identical days. Mina watches endless shows and often stares into the mirror. One day, she knocks on it, and immediately there's a knock at the door. Madeline orders everyone to freeze, and everything stops. The next day, she and Daniel go hunting, and he tells her that Madeline used to work at a university, which is why she considers herself an expert on everything. Mina has been living in the cabin the longest. Daniel has been there for 8 months but has never seen anyone. After listening to him, Mina convinces Daniel to help her explore the burrow. Using a rope, Mina descends, examines it, and finds old objects, newspapers, toys, electronics debris, and an old bicycle which she ties to the rope and sends up. But then, strange sounds, similar to those heard at night outside the cabin walls, emanate from the darkness. Mina screams, and the rope falls to her feet. She climbs out of the dangerous place, and they calmly examine the items. With the bicycle, they might be able to escape. However, Madeline reacts strangely to this idea. Meanwhile, Daniel manages to assemble a surveillance system from the found electronics debris and installs a camera by the door. That night, everything proceeds as usual. Sierra dances when a knock sounds at the door. Daniel assumes it's a person. Madeline forbids opening it, but they hear John, Sierra's husband's voice. The camera only shows the man's bare legs, but Madeline insists it could be a watcher imitating John to get inside. Sierra tries to prove it's John by asking him what book she's reading, a book they bought together on his recommendation. The man doesn't answer, and he pleads for them to save him from death. Kiara asks to see him in the camera, but when he leans towards it, something drags him into the forest. Immediately, the mirror begins to knock violently, harder than ever before. Madeline stands in front of the others as if shielding them, and the knocking stops. In the morning, Madeline asks for the bicycle to be returned to the burrow, demanding they never break the rules again. Later, Mina remembers her sister and her mother, who took the girls for a drive on a beautiful day. Mina opened the window and her mother asked her to close it because the wind bothered her. Mina disobeyed, mimicking her mother, and her mother got distracted from the road, resulting in a tragedy for which Mina still blames herself. Soon, winter arrived, days became shorter, nights colder, and food scarcer. Arguments erupt between the cabin's inhabitants. One day, Kiara leaves for the forest. Mina catches up with her, and Sierra confesses that she felt John was real. She runs back to the house where they hear Daniel yelling at Madeline and Mina, refusing to let them inside. They soon see tall, spider-like monsters emerge from the forest, approaching the cabin window and emitting horrible, screeching sounds. The watchers gaze at Daniel and Kiara while Mina and Madeline wait for them to leave so they can return to the house. When they finally depart, the women rush to the door and beg to be let in. Daniel refuses, and Mina confesses her guilt over her mother's death, pleading with him to understand that he will be tormented by the guilt of causing people's deaths. The door opens. The four immediately stand in front of the mirror, hoping to convince the watchers they are in place. Madeline admits she tried to protect them from certain things. She used to teach history and mythology and, unlike the others, came here willingly. Only here did she realize how dangerous this place was. Once, while hunting alone, she saw herself at sunset. Not an exact copy, but very similar. "You see," she explains, "it's a very ancient species with many names. Changelings, winged ones, fairies. They study humans to impersonate them, but they will never let them leave." There are knocks and voices from the other side of the door, and Daniel finds a trap door in the floor, which they were unaware of. Descending, they discover a well-fortified and equipped room stocked with food and equipment. Mina turns on an old computer, and a video recording of a man appears. Professor Rory Kilmartin, the first to study the Watchers and try to learn about their origins. In 1979, he found this place, which he called the Land of Wonders. Every evening, the Watchers would come to his window and study him. For many years before, Professor Kilmartin's colleagues had laughed at him, not believing his fantastical tales. So he built this bunker, using the labor of men from nearby remote villages. He chose loners, or those prone to vices, so their disappearance wouldn't attract much attention. Every evening, he would convince them to dine outdoors, hiding inside while the Watchers dealt with them. Thus, the bunker was built on blood. One day, a Watcher appeared before him in the form of a red-haired girl. She was different from the others, seemingly alone, curious, and harmless. That's when he realized that if he unlocked the secrets of the fairies, he might even conquer death. He did the unthinkable. He lured the girl into a cage and began experiments, trying to communicate and befriend her. She would change her appearance, sometimes transforming into a monstrous creature with long arms, but it seemed she listened to him and gradually became closer and more understandable. But now, the professor realized he hadn't achieved anything substantial. He had hidden a boat on the riverbank and it was the only way out. They just had to follow the birds. He asked the survivor to go to his office at the university and destroy all the documents there. He himself would go to her and stay there forever. In the last recording, people see Kilmartin ascending, gunshots ring out, and everything falls silent. Realizing this was their last night in the forest, Kira puts on music and invites Daniel to dance, but he seems distraught at the thought of parting. He confesses that his family is dysfunctional and he has nowhere to go. Then the girl offers him to stay with her for a while until they find him a good job and a place to live, as they had become close friends. In the morning, the group sets off, guided by the sign and Mina's parrot, which she asks to lead them. Soon they come across a giant stone disc in the ground, covering the entrance to a huge tunnel. Madeline explains that this is where the last representatives of an ancient fairy people were imprisoned, who were once very friendly with humans. After centuries, they managed to escape to the surface, but now friendship had turned into hatred. They are held here by magic, so they need to run as far as possible. The people walk all day. Dusk falls, but there's still no sign of the river or the boat. Rain begins to fall. They despair when they see huge flocks of birds flying in one direction. They run after them and reach the river. The women rush to the boat when Daniel hears cries behind him and sees John. He runs back to him, overjoyed that the man is alive, but it's a changeling. The woman screams, begging Daniel to run, but he doesn't hear and is killed by the Watcher, who then takes his form. Madeline, Mina, and Kiara escape in the boat. The women wake up in the boat and realize they've returned to civilization. They stop a bus and head to the city, listening to music, finally understanding that it's all over. Later, Mina goes to the university where Kilmartin worked and pretends to be his niece to gain access to his office and fulfill his last request. There she finds more documents, photographs, and recordings where he discusses fairies and the existence of half-breed children still living in the world. She also finds a stack of photographs and, looking through them, seems very surprised. In the evening, Mina goes to Kira's house and, showing her a photo of Madeline that Kilmartin kept, explains that it's his wife who died several years ago. So the Madeline they lived with in the cabin was a special fairy, capable of moving during the day. This is the one Kilmartin caught. He couldn't kill her, and she took the form of Madeline to return to civilization. A car pulls up to the house, and the real Ciara gets out, while the one Mina is talking to is actually a fairy. Realizing she's been discovered, the fairy knocks Mina unconscious and transforms into Daniel. They just want to live like other species, but because of people's hatred, they are forced to remain in the underworld. The fairy transforms into Kilmartin and goes to Mina. In the house, the fairy transforms into her and prepares to kill the girl, but she tells her that there are others like her somewhere because she is half human. She admits that it was unfair for people to banish fairies from their world. Recognizing her rights, the fairy flies away. Amina brings Ciara to her senses. Later, she reunites with her twin sister Lucy, finally forgiving herself for their mother's death. She tells her about her experience, confessing that she still sees Madeline appearing before her in the guise of other people. The nephews come to show a mini drawing depicting her and Darwin, whom she still keeps as a pet. And at that moment, a girl with red hair appears outside, looking at the windows of their apartment and taking on the appearance of a girl with a strange face. I would say that this is not a horror film, but rather a scary bedtime story when a child doesn't want to sleep and asks to be told something scary. Everything builds up slowly, with taste, but the ending is revealed somewhat commonplace, although with a touch of mystery. Thank you for watching the video to the end. Like it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and also write your opinion in the comments. How do you like this movie? And with you was Alex. See you.